Waking from a haunted coma, he discovers 12 sinister secrets revealed in his quest for revenge. Ethan blinked awake, a jolt of panic shooting through him. The antiseptic smells clawed at his senses, and cold metal pressed against his thigh. No, not metal, a wheelchair. A haunting melody of beeping machines surrounded him like an eerie choir from some dark corner of his mind. He felt weightless, yet utterly trapped. Each breath was an effort against the tightening vice of dread strangling his heart. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. In the window's reflection, he could see the suburban streets of Willow Creek laid out like a postcard, so familiar yet so foreign. Children were playing, their laughter ringing like mocking echoes of a past he couldn't quite grasp. Those were his children's voices, weren't they? Memories danced just out of reach, taunting him. The faces he once saw in friends turned into strangers now, their smiles hiding secrets that chilled him to the bone. He found himself wheeling closer to the window, heart racing as shadows flickered in his peripheral vision. Was that someone peeking from behind the curtains next door? A dark figure slipped away just as quickly as it appeared, leaving Ethan breathless. He shook his head, dismissing it as another cruel figment of the chaos in his mind. But the feeling, it clung to him, a suffocating dread that whispered something terrible was at play. Desperation surged through him, mixed with an insatiable thirst for answers. He needed to remember what happened, and what had snatched away the life he once knew. Each phantom flash in his mind was a piece of a puzzle, revealing not just the reasons for his coma but hints of betrayal lurking beneath the surface of suburban normalcy. The neighbor who invited him to barbecues, lending a cup of sugar, suddenly transformed into a figure of suspicion. How well did he really know the people who shared his street? In a burst of determination, he wheeled his way to the hospital's door, an echo of urgency urging him forward. He stepped out, unsure of himself but driven by a fierce need to expose whatever sinister truths lay buried. But the calm outside cloaked a storm brewing beneath the crisp fall air filled with a tension that made his skin crawl. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each step revealed a sliver of the dark web woven through his neighborhood, and there was an unsettling truth waiting to swallow him whole. His old friends, their eyes now betraying shadows of ill intentions, and the police that sat at the corner with their backs turned to the whispers. A chill ran down his spine. Shattering revelations began to unravel in his mind, deepening the labyrinth of paranoia. Intuitive panic whispered of dangers he could not yet see but felt intensely. Just as he pieced together a dark connection between those around him, a voice, sharp as ice, sliced through his thoughts: trust no one. Ethan jolted awake again, heart racing in the lone hospital room where shadows twisted and warped. Fear wrapped around him like a vice as he wondered if he was finally awake or forever stuck in the nightmare. Whose eyes were watching him now? He needed answers, but what if the true enemy was closer than he ever imagined? Would his community rip his family apart before he uncovered the last sinister secret? Ethan's heart raced as he felt the first gust of the late afternoon chill. Was it the wind biting at his skin, or was it the creeping dread that wrapped around him like a shroud? He pushed himself away from the hospital, leaving behind the sterile smell of antiseptics, moving toward the uncertain comfort of home. Each revolution of the wheels made a low whirring sound, echoing through the quiet streets of Willow Creek, a sound that felt more ominous than it should. The neighborhood, once a canvas of joyful memories, now seemed steeped in shadows and whispers. People passed by, their faces familiar yet transformed, as if they were actors in a warped play. He noticed Mrs. Dawson, the cheerful woman who used to bake cookies for the kids, her gaze sliding away from his like he were a phantom. The joy that used to permeate his street was now tainted by secrets Ethan could sense but could not grasp. Wheeling himself slowly down the sidewalk, he felt an undeniable compulsion to collect every missed glance and hushed conversation. He stopped to observe Greg from next door, a man who had shared countless beers and stories around the grill. Greg stood outside, talking with someone on the phone, his expression tense, darting glances toward Ethan like a deer sensing danger. The words, "never should have happened," slipped from his lips, chilling Ethan deeper than any autumn breeze. Ethan's eyes narrowed. What happened? What could trigger such unease? He needed answers, and the burning need in his chest pushed him toward the source. As he drew closer, Ethan noticed Greg's gaze had shifted to the darkened garage. There, he could swear he saw a shadow shift something unnatural. He pulled the wheelchair to a stop, heart pounding as he tried to make sense of it. Without thinking, he wheeled towards the garage, each movement fueled by an anxious urge. But when he reached the door, it was locked tight. No light seeped from the cracks, no noise came from within, just a heavy silence that echoed his dread. What was hidden behind that door? "Hey, Ethan. You all right?" Greg's voice was a mix of feigned cheer and underlying tension. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as Greg approached. Ethan could hear the nervousness in his words. "Yeah, I'm fine. Just needed some air." "Right," Greg said, his eyes flicking back toward the garage. It made Ethan's skin crawl. With a sudden impulse, Ethan forced the words out. "What's in there, Greg?" Greg's posture stiffened. "Nothing. Just old tools and stuff." "Then why do you look like you've seen a ghost?" Greg hesitated, his brows furrowing, uncertainty clouding his face. "You should really get back inside, man. It's not safe out here." The mantra "trust no one" echoed in Ethan's head as Greg's words resonated with an uneasy tension. Ethan's gut twisted. The moment stretched unbearably, as if a storm was brewing just beneath the surface of their seemingly placid lives. Without a word, Ethan wheeled away, the need for answers amplifying. He needed to know what secrets festered in his neighborhood. As he turned the corner, he felt a cold rush of air, and a low whisper brushed against his ear. "Find the truth before time runs out." Ethan's heart thundered. Who or what was trying to guide him? The layers of betrayal thickened, each heartbeat underscoring the urgency of his quest. He needed to dig deeper, uncover the truth before it enveloped him entirely. What sinister secrets lay waiting to be unearthed, and would he even survive whatever darkness was lurking in the shadows of Willow Creek? Ethan moved quickly, but the chill in the air held him back. He gripped the arms of his wheelchair, feeling the tension ripple through his body. The feeling of being watched prickled at his skin. He turned sharply, scanning the street. Most of the neighbors were indoors now, the soft glow of their lights flickering like distant stars against the growing darkness. His thoughts raced. What could Greg be hiding? The whisper still echoed in his mind, urging him to dig deeper, to unveil the mysteries wrapped in the silence of Willow Creek. As he rounded the corner, a shadow danced across the street. A tall figure cloaked in darkness stood just by the old oak tree at the end of the block. Ethan squinted, straining to catch a fleeting glimpse. Was it Greg? Or something far worse? Before he could wheeze out a call, the figure vanished. The street was empty again, the stillness almost suffocating. Panic surged, and he wheeled himself swiftly toward home, desperate to escape the shadows that felt like they were closing in. The familiar path twisted and turned, but a tight knot of anxiety clamped around his chest. Once inside his house, he locked the door and leaned against it, trying to catch his breath. The dull thud of his heart filled the silence. The walls felt like they were leaning closer, shadows coiling in every corner. He had to know. Rummaging through his mind, he recalled the stories that had circulated around town, unheard tragedies and forbidden secrets. He couldn't shake this sensation that Greg was just a piece of a larger puzzle, one that he needed to crack wide open. With renewed determination, Ethan accessed the family computer, once a lifeline, now a tool for unearthing buried truths. Struggling to maneuver, he finally reached the desk. His hands trembled slightly as he typed Willow Creek secrets into the search bar. Each click of the keys resonated through the house, rattling the silence. Articles popped up, stories of disappearances, strange symbols discovered in the woods, all wrapped in the fabric of this little town. A chill ran down his spine as the screen flickered, images wrestling for attention. His breath hitched when he saw a photo of the old garage next to Greg's house. The same blackened wood, the same coldness, but the emptiness felt different. Something was wrong. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A low rumble punctuated the air, akin to a distant growl. Ethan's eyes widened as he turned toward the window. Outside, the sky darkened, clouds rolling in to strangle any remaining light. He strained to listen. A faint humming began, resonating from somewhere close, somewhere nearby. Instinctively, he pushed himself closer to the window, peering out. That shadow reappeared, no longer hidden. It stood still under the oak, illuminated only by the last vestiges of daylight. Something was off. The figure was familiar yet distorted. He could feel the pulse of fear echoing in his ears, collapsing the space between time and reality. Then, a chilling realization hit him. The figure looked like him. A knock echoed through his house, sharp and demanding. The urgency of the noise sent his heart racing again, every nerve in his body lighting up with the instinct to flee. Ethan's mind raced. Should he answer? Before he could make that choice, the knock came again, louder this time, the rhythmic pounding almost mocking. Panic set in as he turned away from the window, leaning back against the door. Who was out there? What did they want? Every instinct screamed to hide. But who could he trust? Finally, with the weight of dread pressing heavy on him, he reached for the doorknob. Would opening the door lead to salvation or damnation? Ethan's hand hovered over the doorknob, the cold metal sending a shock through his fingers. He couldn't shake the image of that shadow outside. It was as if it was taunting him, challenging him to face whatever horror lingered beyond the wood. Another bang. This one felt different, harder. It crashed into his chest, rattling him deeper than the last. He released the knob, panic clawing at the pit of his stomach. Shadows crept closer, the corners of his room twisting into darkened figures that seemed to leer, urging him to make a decision he wasn't ready for. Who's there? His voice emerged weakly, almost a whisper swallowed by the quiet of his home. Silence enveloped him. Just when he thought he might be alone with his thoughts, the knock came again, softer this time but laced with an unsettling familiarity. It felt almost as though whoever was on the other side knew him. Ethan pressed his ear against the door, heart drumming in his ears like a war drum. I know you're in there, Ethan, a voice called, low and chilling, slicing through the air. It was Greg. The very name sent a profound shiver down his spine. We need to talk about the truth. Ethan's breath caught. Greg, the enigma wrapped in shadow. But the tone was off. There was an urgency, a desperation that seemed out of place amidst the growing dread. He could not let himself be drawn in. Not now. The street outside flickered momentarily, flashes of lightning casting long, spectral shadows within the room. Panic gripped him like a vice. Why should I trust you? He demanded, feeling strength fostered by defiance. Because we're running out of time. Something smashed against the front of the house, rattling the windows. Ethan jumped, panic driving him back. The darkness felt alive now, swirling and pressing against him. He couldn't stay here, he had to know what was happening outside. In a swift motion, he reached for the lock, flicking it open with trembling fingers. The door creaked ominously as it swung ajar. Ethan peered out into the darkness, and found nothing but the deserted porch. The chill whipped at him, leaving his skin prickling, a desperate impulse to retreat coursing through him. Greg? He called out, lowering his voice, cautious. Nothing. Just the quiet rustle of leaves, the eerie hum of the storm brewing above. Just then, something caught his eye. At the edge of his yard, a light flickered to life, a small flame dancing defiantly against the gusts of wind. Intrigued but fearful, Ethan wheeled himself closer to the threshold. Ethan. Greg's voice echoed from behind him, now distant, almost ethereal. You have to come before it's too late. Senses reeling, he turned back sharply, but the hallway behind him felt endless, shadows spilling from every crack. The weight of 1,000 secrets hung in the air. His heart raced as realization dawned. If he didn't make a choice soon, everything he'd been desperately searching for might slip away, lost among the whispers of the town. What if Greg was right? Steeling himself, Ethan wheeled toward the flickering light. He couldn't ignore it, couldn't let fear chain him to the past any longer. The moment he stepped outside, the wind howled, drowning out any remaining thoughts of retreat. He felt it again, the sensation of being watched, not just by the shadows, but by something else, something deeper lurking within the essence of Willow Creek. And in that moment, he resolved to unearth whatever lay hidden beneath the town's facade, no matter the cost. Then a cracking sound pierced the air. A figure loomed out of the darkness, the distorted version of himself, as if echoing his every movement, reliving his fears. "Face it," came the whisper from the depths. Face the truth or be consumed by the shadows. Breath quickening, Ethan felt the pounding of his heart drown out all logic. What truth awaited him in the swirling darkness? Would he be brave enough to face it? Ethan's pulse raced as each breath came harder than the last. The distorted figure reflected every ounce of his fear, its hollow eyes glinting with an impossibly familiar malice. "What are you?" he stammered, feeling the ground shift beneath him, the very air twisting with a darkness that clung like fog. "Do you really not know?" The figure smiled, a sinister grin that split its face. "You've been sleeping through it all, Ethan. Dreams and nightmares blend here, just like your reality." A chill ran down Ethan's spine. The memories, fragmented and chaotic, flooded back. Each shadowy figure he had fought to dismiss, each whisper he thought was just in his mind, began to coalesce into something tangible. They weren't just figments, they were echoes of his past. He stepped back, but with every movement, the figure mirrored him, tauntingly. It felt like a grotesque dance, but no one was laughing. Dread hung thick between breaths. "Stop!" Ethan shouted, voice cracking with desperation. "I'll break this cycle. I'll discover the truth." "Ah, the truth," the figure cooed, flowing closer, its voice a sibilant hiss that wrapped around him like a snake. "The truth is buried deep, the secrets of Willow Creek. You're not just running from the dark, you've been part of it. Wake up, Ethan. You must face what lies beneath." With a surge of nerve, Ethan lunged towards the flickering light at the edge of his yard, willing himself to shake the darkness that writhed in the corners of his mind. But as he reached that feeble flame, it suddenly sputtered. The warmth vanished, replaced by a freezing gust that howled past, carrying anguished whispers that clawed at his resolve. "No!" he gasped, eyes darting around in panic. "No, please." The figure melted into the shadows, retreating back into the depth of darkness, dragging Ethan's sanity with it. He stumbled to the ground. As terror clawed at his throat, shadows danced around him, forming a circle that pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing close. "Find us, face us," the voices filled the air, a cacophony of anguished cries that rang out from the very heart of Willow Creek. "You cannot escape what you are." Desperately pushing against the weight of despair, Ethan turned to the house. Greg's voice rang out again, louder now, crackling with urgency. "Ethan. The secret's there with us. You have to remember." That name Greg brought a new wave of clarity amidst the terror. Memories swirled. Nighttime conversations filled with dread turned into information he had locked away, citing it as impossible. Hadn't Greg screamed at him for ignoring it all? Ethan's gaze shot back to the shadows. "I remember," he yelled, as if confronting the darkness head-on would somehow give him power over it. "I remember you." The darkness recoiled momentarily, the whispers fading to a chilling silence, and that silence was both oppressive and liberating. But as the shadows began to simmer, a sudden, jarring realization seized him. He had become a part of this dark legacy, his family's history tangled in a web of sinister truths and buried betrayals, flickering back to life with sinister energy. "What must I face?" he shouted into the overwhelming night. The answer came not from the shadows but from somewhere deep within him. It echoed like a distant thunder, everything. Fueled by a new determination, Ethan rose to his feet. The flickering light took on a different hue, brighter, inflating his fragile courage. He could confront this fear, follow the path laid out before him, torn between retreating into ignorance and moving forward into the depth of darkness. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a familiar shadow flit by the trees, swift and cold, more than just a memory. It was something real. "What was that?" he whispered, Feeling his heart race once more. As the chill crept closer, Ethan turned slowly, sensing he was not as alone as he thought. Would he dare to discover who or what awaited him in the depths of Willow Creek? Or would the shadows claim him again? Ethan's heart hammered against his ribcage, the shadows thickening around him as he squinted into the dark. The chill was palpable, wrapping around him like a suffocating blanket. It felt as if the very night itself was alive, whispering secrets he wasn't prepared to hear. Ethan, the voice was faint, like a ghost, but familiar. It was low and raspy, cutting through the eerie silence. He turned, scanning the twisted branches of the trees, half expecting a face to emerge from the gloom. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice shaky, trembling in the silence. A figure emerged, gliding from behind the trees. It was Greg, his expression tight with urgency. The faint beam of moonlight illuminated the edges of his face, casting it in stark relief. "You have to come with me. It's not safe here." "What did you find?" Ethan demanded, desperate for answers. The memories of their conversations cascaded back, the frantic late-night talks about shadows that prowled Willow Creek, tales of families lost to the darkness, and the things they had always dismissed as folklore. Greg looked over his shoulder, his eyes wide with fear. "They're watching us. They've known you'd come back. You have to trust me." Ethan felt a knot of dread clench in his stomach. Trust? In a place that had seduced his reality with terror? A flicker of doubt gripped him. It had always been so easy to dismiss Greg's warnings. But as he glanced into the shadows that murmured and writhed, the fear paralyzed him. What if it's a trap? What if you're stop? Greg's voice rang out, cutting through his spiraling thoughts. "You think I want you to end up like the rest? This isn't just about you. They want us both." He stepped closer, urgency flooding his tone. "We have to find the truth." The darkness around them wasn't merely passive, it was alive, thrumming with malevolence. Voices whispered from the trees, taunting echoes of Ethan's doubts. "What do you know?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady, wrestling with the swirling unease. Greg hesitated, eyes darting back to the shadows. "The stories about the town, what they really mean, what happened to your family, is more twisted than you know. The ones who vanished, they're not just gone. They're taken, Ethan. You need to dig deeper." A flash of rage ignited within Ethan. "So, what? I should just disappear like them? Resist or embrace it?" "Face it," Greg said sharply. "You are a part of it, just as they are. You need to remember everything. It's the only way to protect yourself." Every instinct screamed for him to run, to find safety in the light of his home. But a darker resolve settled in. "Then let us do it. Where do I start?" "Follow me," Greg said, urgency slicing through the air. He began to move toward the dense trees, his silhouette blending into the murk. Ethan hesitated just a moment, fighting against layers of uncertainty. Then, heart racing, he plunged into the grasp of shadows, chasing after the only person who might lead him to the answers he sought. They moved deeper into the forest, the trees whispering like old souls recounting forgotten tales. Eerie shapes flitted just out of view, taunting Ethan, reminding him of all he'd lost. The oppressive weight of dread thickened around them. Each step felt like an invitation to something lurking, something hungry. "Can we trust the stories?" he murmured, glancing at Greg, who seemed momentarily distant, lost in thought. "It's beyond stories, Ethan. It's our legacy," he whispered back, face pale against the dark canopy. A twig snapped underfoot. Both froze. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the stillness, paranoia igniting between them. "Did you hear that?" Ethan gasped, heart pounding unbearably loud. "It's coming," Greg hissed. And then, just as fear bubbled over in Ethan's chest, he felt the darkness respond. From the depths, a guttural growl resonated, vibrating the very ground beneath them. "Run!" Greg yelled, shoving Ethan forward, adrenaline surging. They sprinted through the forest, branches clawing at their skin, breath coming in frantic gasps. A pursuit was underway, something from the shadows was closing in, just as they burst into a clearing, a flash of light blinded them momentarily, and behind them, the darkness churned with impending wrath. Suddenly, a flash of realization pierced through Ethan's stunned mind. What if he didn't just have to face the darkness outside? What if the greatest terror lay within? Will you fight the darkness within? Echoes from the trees taunted. As he caught his breath, Ethan saw the flickers of light scattered like stars. Each glow a possible answer, a glimpse into what could be, or just another trap waiting to pull him back down into the dark. Ethan stared down the path before him, understanding that his moment of choice was near. Would he dare to confront the legacy of terror that not only haunted Willow Creek but now threatened to consume him entirely? As a figure loomed behind him, shadows swirling, one question hung in the air like a final heartbeat. Would he turn to face the darkness or flee into it? Ethan stumbled forward, faltering in the shifting light that danced around him. The shadows pushed at his back, urging him to retreat, but the flickering glow ahead held a ghastly allure. It was as if they beckoned him into their secrets, promising the thrill of discovery mingled with the fear of destruction. "Ethan, don't!" Greg shouted, grabbing his arm, the urgency of his grip contrasting sharply with the eerie calm that settled around them. "You can't just walk towards the light. It's a trap." Ethan wrestled free, heart pounding, every instinct telling him to press on. But what if there's a way to understand? Maybe it can explain what happened to my family. It'll only spill more darkness. Greg's face was pale, a mask of desperation. "You don't know what you're dealing with." It was too late to reconsider. Ignoring the warnings, Ethan accelerated towards the luminous shapes. They flickered in a chaotic rhythm, like moths drawn to a flame, each light twisting into familiar forms, faces he hadn't seen in years but recognized instantly. "Mom?" He breathed, the name barely escaping his lips. The light shifted, and suddenly, he was standing before her, her expression a mix of love and sorrow. But what should have brought warmth instead pricked at his skin, a chill spiraling down his spine. "You shouldn't have come back, Ethan." Her voice was a haunting echo, shadowed by the rustle of leaves. "It's dangerous. They're watching." Ethan struggled to step closer, but an unseen weight held him back. "What happened to you?" he whispered, anguish pooling in his chest. "Look inside yourself," she said, and the brightness flickered ominously, fading just as quickly as it appeared. "It's the only way to find the truth." "No. Come back," he shouted, but the apparition blinked away, leaving only the wretched whisper of the trees to fill the void. Greg was there again, pulling Ethan back. "This isn't real. It's meant to lure you in. We have to get out. Now." But Ethan stood frozen, his breath shallow, the anguish gnawing at him like a festering wound. What if it is real? What if my mom has answers that we need? Before Greg could respond, shadows stirred around them, taking shape in monstrous forms. Wisps of darkness glided forward, sinister figures of shifting malice, their eyes glinting like knives. "They're here," Greg hissed, panic-stricken. "We need to move." Just then, a sound like whispers grew to a cacophony, a chorus of voices echoing from all directions. "The legacy remembers," it teased, the shadows dancing closer, edging Ethan and Greg into a trap. With the instinct of a wounded animal, Ethan bolted, trying to weave through the trees, but the shadows were relentless, clutching at him, pulling him back. He felt Greg's hand grasp his wrist, jerking him towards a narrow path that spiraled deeper into the forest. "Trust me," Greg shouted, leading the way. "No more stopping. We can't let them win." The urgency of escape rallied Ethan, who urged his legs to comply despite the weight of dread weighing heavy on his heart. He could hear shadows howling behind them, a chorus of lost souls wanting him to join their ranks. As they navigated through twisted roots and gnarled branches, the darkness swirled like smoke around them, wrapping tighter with each passing moment. Ethan stole glances over his shoulder. The monstrous shapes were gaining ground, slinking like predators hungry for their next meal. In that frantic sprint, a astonishing realization unfolded in Ethan's mind. Every figure lurking in the dark had a face he recognized: friends, family, the lost. But how could he confront them when he didn't even understand what they desired? Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath his feet and Ethan stumbled, falling forward, the darkness closing in. Greg's hand slipped from his grip as he pulled Ethan up, urgency flashing in his eyes. "It's a choice." Greg gasped. "You have to face them. Otherwise, they'll consume you." Ethan's heart raced even faster. Did he have the strength to confront the source of his fears? Or would he succumb to the relentless shadows forever, with determination? Igniting within him, Ethan pushed through the pain and the despair. Each step was a battle, but he had to decide. Fight the dark forces lurking within or allow them to envelop him completely. Before he could decide, a piercing scream shattered the night air, echoing through the forest, causing every nerve in Ethan's body to ignite with terror. "Ethan!" He spun around, eyes wide, realizing it wasn't just a scream, it was a cry for help. But from whom? And how many souls had already been lost to the darkness? And just as the realization set in, shadows began to swirl faster, their echoes blending into a chilling chorus, pulling him toward an unspeakable truth. Would he have enough courage to face what awaited him in the heart of the darkness? Or was he too late to save those crying out for rescue? The night pressed in closer, and the shadows roared, drowning out all hope of escape. Ethan's heart hammered so loudly he could barely hear anything else. Shadows tangled and twisted around him, almost breathing, feeding off the fear radiating from his skin. He squeezed his eyes shut, tried to block the terror that weighed him down, but it only heightened his senses. Each whisper in the air sounded like a haunting promise of despair, teasing him with the agony of his past. "Ethan! We have to move." Greg yanked at him again, desperation etching lines across his pale face. "Please. We can't stay here." They'll what?" Ethan snapped back, emotion bubbling over. "They'll take me away? Or offer me some twisted truth? I'm already lost, Greg. This is my chance to know why." Before Greg could respond, the scream echoed again, more haunting than the last. It slithered through the trees, wrapping around Ethan's guts like a vice. "Who's calling me?" He gasped, his legs straining to find the direction of the voice. It felt familiar, fractured, like echoes of laughter he once loved. "Don't. You're being lured." Greg's voice broke as if the words physically hurt him to say. But the spirit of the voice twisted further into Ethan's mind, pulling him like a marionette to the feet of its puppeteer. The ground surged beneath him, roots erupted from the earth, reaching for him like skeletal fingers. He felt his heart race as he tried to dodge them. The shadows howled with glee, dancing, taunting. Were they hungry? Was there a terrible feast awaiting those who lingered too long? Greg's grip on Ethan's arm tightened. "We can't outrun what we don't understand." With a newfound energy sparked by the voice, Ethan shook free of Greg's hold, and, in a blur, he darted toward the source. "Mom!" He screamed into the darkness, hoping against hope that somewhere amid the nightmare lay a fragment of truth. As he barreled deeper into the forest, the air thickened, and the trees writhed with each agonizing howl. Wisps of shadows slithered, wrapping around his ankles, pulling back with agonizing force. "You're looking for answers," a voice echoed, cold and moist like frost. "This isn't the path you wished for." Ethan pressed forward despite the pain, ignoring the cuts of brambles that raked against his skin. "Where are you?" he pleaded, desperation threading through his words. Then he heard humming the lullaby his mother used to sing, sweet and sorrowful. The sound spun through the air, reminiscent of better days before it all crumbled. "Ethan, listen." It was Greg now, urgency mounting in his tone. "That's not your mother. It's a bait. She's not here. Don't be tricked." But with every pulse of the melody, Ethan felt himself drawn closer, wrapped in the essence of hope. He could almost see her, draped in light, soft and inviting. The shadows retreated, sensing the power of the love they feared. Just a little further, he could reach her. Then, in an instant, the shadows coalesced and surged toward him, dark fingers snapping. Greg screamed, his words stitched together in desperation, "Get back. They want to drown you in grief." Ethan paused, the haze clearing just enough for a flicker of awareness. The darkness pulsed as if alive, a twisted heartbeat matching the rhythm in his chest. "I can't give in," he cried out, clenching his fists, ready to confront whatever awaited him. As he took a step forward, the shadows recoiled, and their horrific faces twisted into distorted reflections of Ethan himself, fearful, anguished, lost. "Who are you?" he shouted. "I am not you. I am not afraid." The shadows laughed, a cacophony of anguish intertwined with hysteria. "Fear is your nature," they cooed, limbs reaching out. "Join us, and the truth will set you free." Ethan hesitated, fear wrapping around his throat like a noose. The ground shifted again, and the shadows lunged. Just as he felt their grasp closing in, an image flooded his mind, a flickering candle in the vast darkness. "How do I escape?" he shouted. But the question was swallowed by the shadows, their laughter a haunting reminder that no help awaited him. And then, a voice, the same one from before, though now sinister, whispered, "Embrace the truth before it's too late." With a heart full of dread and defiance, Ethan prepared for the battle ahead. Would he confront the darkness or allow it to consume him? Would he be able to face the secrets of his past? The shadows loomed closer, eyes blazing with malevolence. The choice was imminent, looming like a predator ready to pounce. Would he uncover the horrors hidden in his own blood, or would he be swallowed by the darkness that threatened to engulf him? Ethan's breath quickened as the shadows lunged, and he felt the cold breath of despair brushing against his skin. Panic clawed at his throat. "No!" he shouted, more to reclaim his own space than to deny what the darkness wanted. The ground throbbed beneath him, a heartbeat synchronized with the chaos swirling around him. He crouched low, ready to dart away from the advancing darkness. "Ethan!" Greg's voice cut through the tension, desperate and urgent. "You can't fight them. You have to let go." Could he? Ethan shook his head, an instinctive rejection of surrender. He refused to give in to the shadows. They wanted him to feel beaten, forgotten, lured by despair. The memory of the lullaby echoed stronger now, a siren's song entwining with the dread, twisting his thoughts. Then, beneath the harmony, he heard something new, a chilling laughter that twisted the melody. It was no longer a lullaby, it was a mockery. They were playing with him. "Get out of my head!" he screamed, feeling the shadows pulse around him. "Ethan! Run!" Greg screamed, swinging his arms, trying to ward off the encroaching darkness. But Ethan could see it, shimmering beneath the surface, his mother's familiar figure, ethereal and gentle, willing him to embrace the truth. Anguish gripped him. Was it worth it? Would the truth bring him salvation or only more torment? Then, amidst the chaos, a surge of anger ignited within him. "This isn't who I am," he bellowed, lifting his chin, determination flooding through his veins. "You don't own my fear." The shadows, sensing his defiance, flooded closer, their forms twisting and writhing like a mass of snakes. Half-faces twisted within their smoky bodies, grinning, sneering. "But we own your memories, Ethan. You can't escape your own truth." "Truth?" He spat the word like poison. "You've twisted everything I believed." He took a step forward, heart hammering, and the ground quaked beneath him. With each move, he could feel the energy rippling through the air, tendrils reaching for him, sweet, seductive, tempting. "Fight it. You have to fight," Greg shouted, his face pale. Ethan focused, blocking out the whispers faintly pulling him back, imagining the flickering candle again, the tiny flame flickering against a storm. "I will not be your prey." In that moment, there was a crack, a fissure splitting the atmosphere, the shadows faltering. Fueled by raw defiance, he raised his arms and shouted, "Show me then. If you want the truth, then let it be revealed." At this declaration, the shadows recoiled, and a great gust of wind surged through the trees, rattling the leaves and shrieking in agony. Ethan felt it, a shift in the darkness, a parting like a veil. At its center flickered a memory so vividly bright that it nearly hurt to see. The shadows howled, a cacophony of rage and despair. "What have you done? I've awakened," he cried, stepping closer to the light. The memory burst free like a cork out of a bottle, spilling into the dark like a waterfall. He saw faces, scenes from the past, a carnival, laughter, and then a sudden darkness. Ethan stumbled, grasping the ground, the full weight of grief and loss crashing into him. But from that pain, something else emerged: anger, determination. "You will not deceive me any longer." The light surged, and the darkness shrank back in fear. But just as quickly, the vision faded. Shadows thickened, blotting out the fleeting memory. Choking back tears of rage and fear, Ethan felt a sharp pain. Something was changing within him. The shadows were still there, lurking, but a specter of doubt began to worm its way in. "Run. Ethan, we need to go." Greg's voice cut through, more frantic now. The air crackled with energy, shadows swirling thicker, the flickering memory still evading him. "You can't keep me here," Ethan shouted defiantly, even as the shadows lunged once again, their grotesque forms stretching toward him like claws grasping for flesh. Greg began pulling at him, desperate to break his focus, but Ethan didn't want to leave, not yet. The truth he glimpsed was too close, too tempting. It felt like freedom, but was it another lie? With one last desperate glance into the swirling dark, Ethan's heart thundered. "Come stop me," he whispered to the shadows, challenging them. And as they surged, ready to take him down, he took a step forward, feeling the chilling caress of the truth wash over him. What would he confront next? What shadows of his past lay hidden in the depths? Would he unearth the horrors, or would the shadows thrive on his fear? The answers awaited him, unsettling yet tantalizing. He held his breath. Would he truly find the freedom he craved? Ethan's pulse raced, the shadows closing in like a suffocating blanket. He felt every heartbeat echo in the oppressive silence, every breath a labor under the weight of dread. But then, something within him, something deep, began to awaken. The power of defiance surged through his veins, igniting a fierce light against the dark. "I will not be your prisoner," he declared, his voice trembling but steady. The shadows recoiled, swirling back as if stung. They whispered, anger rising around him, a thunderous growl resonating within the depths. "You cannot escape, embrace us," they hissed, their forms shifting and morphing into grotesque parodies of the people he once knew. The faces of his neighbors twisted into masks of hate, their eyes glinting with malice. In that instant, Ethan realized the truth: they were echoes of his fears, manifestations of pain he didn't want to face. "Stop!" Greg shouted, pulling at Ethan's arm, urging him to flee. "You can't face them alone. You need to remember." But in that moment of clarity, memories shot through Ethan's mind like a rapid slideshow: the laughter of children, the warmth of summer, the feeling of safety that once wrapped around him like a blanket. And then it hit him like a brick, the tragedy that shattered it all. "My family," he murmured. Images of their final moments together clawed at him, overwhelming but necessary. With renewed determination, Ethan stood taller. "You can't have the past," he shouted, feeling power rise inside him. "I will reclaim it." The shadows wailed, shrieking with rage and despair. "You'll regret this," they howled, lunging toward him. Ethan's heart thundered, but he refused to succumb. Instead, he focused on the love that once filled his home, the laughter that rang through the walls. He took a step forward, pushing against the darkness. "I remember who I am. I will find the truth." With those words, he felt a shift. A crack formed in the shadowy wall that threatened to consume him. Light streamed through, illuminating the figures wrapped within the darkness. They trembled, their forms flickering as if caught between two worlds. "No!" they cried, voices blending and shattering like glass. And then, amidst the chaos, he glimpsed them: his family. His mother, her familiar face radiant even in shadow, beckoned. "Ethan, don't be afraid. This is your moment." Ethan blinked back tears, gripping the resolve in his chest. "I'm here. And I will uncover the truth." As he lunged toward the flickering light, the darkness split apart, screams echoing in fury as he dove deeper. What lay beyond was a flood of memories, vivid and thrilling yet tinged with heartbreak. He saw the truth of Willow Creek, an ancient chain of betrayal that had gripped the town in silence for too long, a cycle that had claimed the lives of many. He could see it now, the hidden struggles, the dark deeds stitched behind friendly smiles that had shaded his world in secrecy. To break the chains, he whispered fervently, I must face it all. With newfound strength, Ethan turned back toward the shadows. They still lunged, still hissed, but now their forms wavered, their power weakened in the light of his resolve. I will not let the darkness define me, he shouted, feeling each word pierce the shadow's facade. I will not be afraid. And in that moment of sheer clarity, the shadows shrieked, their forms dissolving like mist in the sun. The truth radiated, a brilliant light making way for hope. The silence grew, crackling with energy, and they faded, taking with them the anguish that had weighed so heavily. Finally, the forest opened like a flower, revealing the soft glow of dawn breaking on the horizon. Colors burst across the sky, illuminating the world anew. Ethan, heart racing, looked around in awe. He felt free, no chains of darkness, no burdens of the past. Ethan. Greg called, emerging from the shadows, a blend of relief and awe washing over him. You did it. You faced it. Ethan smiled, tears streaming down his face, relief flooding through him like warm sunlight. We did it, he exclaimed, his heart steadied with conviction. There would be challenges ahead, and the path wouldn't always be clear, but with the truth embraced, he felt whole. Willow Creek had its history, but now, together, they could reclaim its future. The darkness would no longer reign. Let us go home, Ethan said, wheeling beside Greg, determination set in his gaze. As they moved toward the light, Ethan knew the journey had just begun. But he was ready. Ready to build, heal, and uncover everything that made him who he was, starting with sharing his story and confronting the unspoken truths of Willow Creek. And with each turn of the wheel, Ethan felt the echoes of the past drape over him like a shroud finally lifted, revealing a new dawn. Now it's your turn. If you're ready for more journeys through stories that make you feel, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to click that button so you don't miss the next exclusive tales we tell. Smash the like button now to help feed the algorithm and tell everyone that you're part of this wild ride, and don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What did you think? In fact, take a moment right now to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Show your true fan spirit and let them in on the adventure. Your support means everything. Let us keep the story alive together.